Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to RaceFace.Pro and welcome to the first round of the RaceFace.Pro GT3 Championship. My name is Stephen Koenig, and joining me in the box after being away for a little bit, going and having a bit of fun in his own racing, we've got the return of Cameron de Bastos. Cameron, glad to have you here. What a time to be alive for 2025 and our first race of the season, landing up at a very difficult circuit of Donington.
Good evening, Stephen, and good evening, everybody out there in the grandstands. It's good to be back. It's been, as you said, been away for a bit, but now I'm back there. And if the racing tonight is anything going to be that was last night, it is going to be amazing game tonight. Some close battles we saw last night, some drama on the last lap, and I mean, some unfamiliar names coming through, and anywhere we didn't even think they were going to be. So it's a promising start for the season. I'm looking forward to see how this all pans out.
Well, that's it. And also, we've got quite a few of our regular spectators coming and joining us to have a bit of fun as well. Jean Fenter going and popping in and shouting from the grandstands. Good to see him out there. So we'll see how our racing moves forward and where we're going to end at the end of this. It's going to be a hot one. It's going to be a very tightly contested championship, I would say, due to the amount of drivers looking to push themselves a little bit further up the road and ensure that they are going to battle it out. Looks like we are having some difficulty with our stream. Do apologize. We'll try and get that up and going. Find out what is happening here. So we seem to be having a little bit of difficulty. Right, we just trying to get this up and going, ladies and gentlemen. Why is this all of a sudden an issue? Cameron, maybe you can enter the server.
I will see if I can quickly update that.
All right, folks, we do apologize for the difficulty. We are getting going as what we can to update, fix, and sort. So once again, we do apologize for the technical difficulties. Stop start. Let's see if that got it working. It should be better. So to everyone out there in the virtual grandstands, if you can let me know if it has improved. Looks like we may have fixed our technical difficulty. I'm just going to apologize for that little bit of a stutter. Hopefully we are all back up and going live with all the action here at Donington for the RaceFace.Pro GT3 Championship, round one of the championship. And so far, Brandon Kruger leading out the top end of the field with Christoph Peterson in second place. Very reminiscent of what we saw yesterday in the RaceFace.Pro GT3 Sprint Series. Cameron, Dean O'Keefe running in third, along with Gary Bukes, who's done a fantastic job running in fourth place. Johan Blichnote is in fifth place for the Omnius Gaming team. Tian Elof in the Scuderia running in sixth. Mordrake Claessens of the Pandassi Infiltrate. Jason Farmer, who we've got to take our hats off. This is a driver that has really gone that extra bit of mile, was caught out last night due to technical difficulties, returned back to the circuit and kept pushing on to land up at the top. So it's great to see him. Ryan Barrington-Smith returning to the circuit as well. Daniel de Villiers in the hotly contested PWSR Nissan GTR. Great defense has been on his part. And then Connor Bergstrom going and joining up. He's actually signed up with the OG team, the Omnis Gaming, for this season as well. So expect to see that car going. So quite a few returning drivers to the field. 23 cars in our pro server will be up and going. Ready to have a bit of fun here at the beautiful Donington circuit. But Cameron, this is going to be a bit of a tricky one for everyone at the moment with a 125.5 set by Brandon Kruger and Christoph Peterson, just not getting that lap all put together and sitting with a 125.832. So much is to go on, but we've also got to take a look. It's a longer race. Is it worth pushing harder in qualifying, or is it rather just get something all together and focus on the race?
Steve, we're kind of seeing a reverse of what happened last night, where Christoph was able to put in the phenomenal pole lap that he was able to, and unfortunately Brandon Kruger getting stuck behind one of the cars doing one of the in laps. So now it's a bit of a turn of the tide, where now Christoph has to hunt again behind Brandon Kruger. But we all know that those two have, as proven last night, have been able to perform extremely well. Unfortunately, with Brandon getting some drive-throughs, but that's something that he has learned from last night and will probably move on in order to prevent that from tonight. We all know how tricky that chicane is, and it is going to cost many drivers some off-tracks. But you never know what's going to happen. Anything can happen as the race unfolds, and that's the beauty of motor racing.
Well, we've got Michael Donaldson running in 15th position, trying to get a little bit more of a climb, and he's currently 0.3 up on his lap time. And Andre Sorodio, who's a little bit further down, is 0.2 up on his previous lap time. Now, a bit of an interesting factor this week that has plagued a few drivers has been running out of fuel. Andre Sorodio did it in an overseas league where he ran out of fuel coming around the final corner at Bathurst. We also saw the likes of Brandon Kruger running out of fuel, as well as a couple of others. Do you think they've learned their lesson, put in, instead of that one extra lap, go 2 or 3 extra laps to ensure that they come across the line? Or do you think it's still going to be playing it close to the razor's edge to ensure that they minimize the amount of weight in these cars to get around the circuit as quick as possible?
Well, Steve, it's much difficult in order to really understand what you can do in terms of fuel load. I mean, many of these drivers have run their laps, they have practices set up, they've got it down to the T, but now the issue is having to go and get it to the point where you have to navigate through traffic. There's going to be back markers, people are going to be slower. You have to be able to manage that, which will also impact your fuel usage. You're either going to use a lot more fuel in order to get to lap faster, or you're going to gain a bit more, or use less fuel, so you're going to have a bit more. It's always a risky one. We saw last night how that kind of didn't work out for the likes of Brandon Kruger, Tristan Earps, Daniel de Villiers. So I always follow the rule of thumb when I enter my races. Always go a lap or 2 laps a bit extra on the fuel load. Yes, it might be a bit more, but it will work better and be safe. You never know if your opponent's going to run out of fuel, and you never know what's going to happen.
Well, been an interesting change of cars, though. A lot of drivers trying something new, like Darren Miller racing now in the Porsche 992. So saw touching the grass and sliding it out. Unfortunately, that's going to cost him a bit of time, and he was going to have to be very cautious of that. Different car to what we usually see him in. Porsche now getting a little bit more love, that little bit of a Herbie will be challenging up front. Alan Patterson returning to the circuit, also going for something that he is quite familiar with, the Aston Martin, after being in a mid-engine battle so long of the previous season. So we have seen those different changes. Darius jumping into the Nissan GTR. It's been putting a bit of work in the car as well, racing all over the world in a variety of different leagues. saying that he's finally getting used to this vehicle. But believe it or not, his favorite car to drive on a Assetto Corsa Competizione is something that most drivers look away from, the Ferrari 488.
I mean, I won't argue with him there. The Ferrari 488 was the first car that I've ever won my championship, and it's a car that I hold close to my heart, and it's quite special to me. But to see the different mix of cars out on the circuit, I mean, you mentioned we are seeing the likes of Darren Miller in a Porsche, even though when last time I raced against him, he was also trying to master the Porsche. But Daniel De Villiers, he loved the GTR for years, and I know when I teamed up with him, he would always ask, can we go back to the Nissan? And we always said no. I'm sorry, Daniel. Humble apologies from my side regarding that. But now we also see guys like Mondre Klaassen switching from a McLaren from the last time I saw him into a Porsche, and Loic Randall from a Porsche to a BMW. But it's a bit of a different mix. It's good. It's not one car dominating the entire field. It's a mix and a different bunch of cars, which is always brilliant. So there's no clear indicator of which car is the strongest. And that is what we always is what we like to see, what we aim for. And I mean, the Mustang, it's a beast of a car on the straights, but in the cornering, it does tend to lose some of its performance there, where other cars like to make it up.
Well, getting a bit of reports as well. Richard Van Heed, who's one of our drivers that usually regularly races with us. He's sitting out Red Star Raceway at this point, so tuning in and watching all his friends and competition. Also, pretty interested of how this is going to turn out. So, very interesting to see a couple of guys sitting out there, but one we did not expect. Tian Elof has done a phenomenal job to put himself into second place on the first outing, and now De Villiers sitting in third. It's going to be scratching his head. Christoph Peterson not able to improve his times, but all the cars right down to 13th position, within a second of one another. As they make their way through, it's going to be hard across the throttle. And Tiana Elof tried going and beating that last lap time. He did a 125.9, but his best lap time was a 125.6. Brandon Kruger still holds that top spot, but for how long is the question. Blicknote now putting himself into third place as he looks to take this mighty Mustang around the circuit. Time running out though, 15 seconds. Ryan Barrington-Smith going and improving his lap time. Done a phenomenal job. Gets a 126.297 into 11th position, trying to push himself up through the field. And Paul Fenter also taking a huge change, going to the Honda NSX GT3, or even what's called the car Acura if you're in the likes of America. So there's so many different vehicles coming into it, different drivers, but unfortunately Darren Miller, Andre Sorodio, and Ruben Heineke are going to have to be quite content in their positions. Brandon Kruger has come across the line, so has Tian Elof, Daniel De Villiers, Christoph Peterson, all have come across the line. Paul Fenter trying to get that little bit of momentum. So is Gerrit Bucas, and Michael Donaldson is up 0.1. Never mind, Michael Donaldson into the dirt, loses out that time. He's going to have to also be content in 9th position. 10th place, Jason Farmer, with Mahayath Musa still out on track to set a lap time. Will Mahayath Musa be able to get across the line and ensure that he holds the top spot? It doesn't look like he's going to be able to do it on the final lap. And Jason Farmer is now trying his luck. Currently down on his personal best. Can he get that little bit of momentum? Slow through the hairpin. Not able to get the car out, and goes and takes the steering wheel saying, nope, not going to make it. Gives us a little bit of a nod there saying, I'm out of it, unfortunately. Dino Kier comes across the line and will hold 6th position. So, a bit of a change there, and drivers are now having to be well alert of where they're starting in these races, and not much is going to happen in terms of qualifying. So far, biggest surprise, Tian Elof has done a phenomenal job to hold second place. Johan Blicknote in third, De Villiers in fourth, but Brandon Kruger will once again start in that pole position here at Donington, and the pressure is now mounting. Cam, I got to say, I'm really, really looking forward to seeing how this race all goes. We got Tim on the cameraman. We've got Jim, who is our race control. We've got an hour and 20 minutes worth of racing and mandatory 2 pit stops. Now, how do you get a pit stop, Cam, in the world of Assetto Corsa Competizione? What counts as a pit stop? What do I need to do? Do I need to come in, change tires? Do I need to swap out my drink bottle? Maybe high five the pit crew on the way through? What's the idea here?
Well, Steve, a pit stop can have various different requirements. It can have either you have to change tires, or you need to at least put a minimum of a liter of fuel in. So you can't just drive in, stop, and then immediately go. But that also brings in the issue where sometimes the car doesn't meet the requirements. We've seen in the past how many drivers enter the pits, they do what is needed, and then as soon as they leave, the pit stop is not met. That can either mean that they didn't add enough fuel, or that they just stopped outside of their box. Even though the car was lifted, it can still trigger the pit stop not being met as a requirement. So in terms of strategy, anything can happen. Most drivers we've seen also, they prefer to go either until midway and then stop right at the very, very end, or pit early and then halfway through again. But again, strategy can change depending on what happens. You can either be involved in an incident, or you can end up very much just leading and running away, and your whole strategy changes. Anything can happen. You do not know. These drivers have their own strategy so far, but we all know as soon as the race starts, as those lights goes green, strategy goes out the window, and you play it how you see it. You can't have a set strategy no matter what.
It's going to be an interesting one nonetheless, and damage is a consideration as we will be racing into the dark. Many of these drivers will be trying to figure out what is the most optimum way to ensure you get to the top end of the field at the end. 23 cars lining up of this GT3 action here at Donington for the RaceFace.Pro GT3 Championship. And let's go and take a look at who is running where for the start of the RaceFace.Pro GT3 Championship. First place, Brandon Kruger will be taking the front row with that mighty V8 Mustang. Going to get a bit of understeer heading into turn 1. It's going to be very, very cautious there. Tian Ilof in second place, followed by Johan Blichnote chasing down in yet another Mustang. It's been a bit of a front engine lockup as Daniel de Villiers will be there in the Nissan GTR of the PWSL. Christoph Peterson running behind with Dean Nokia. These two came to blows last night, and let's see who's going to be able to get the jump off the line. Ferret Bucas will be running in 7th position with Michael Donaldson in 8th. Mordred Claessens in 9th place for the Pandacity team. Jason Farmer in 10th will be trying to maintain this 10th place or further up and redeem from last night's race. Ryan Barrington-Smith running in 11th place. Chris Heineke in 12th. Paul Fenter will be trying to chase down his teammates in 13th position. Loic Randabal in the BMW M4 GT3 will have Conor Bergstrom, newly appointed teammate, running in 15th position. Onto the back of him, Tienes Buerta will be making up a bit of... Sorry, this is Tienes Buerta, and then we've got Darius running in 17th. It's going to be fun to... Sorry, it would be Darius in 16, 17, Tienes Buerta. Then followed by Mahayath Musa. Alan Patterson will look to move his way up in 19th. Henry Platt running in 20th. 21st going to Darren Miller, followed by Andre Serradio and Ruan Heineke, rounding out our field tonight. Going to be a bit of a close one, but for Brandon Kruger, this is a huge amount of pressure. For Tian Ulof, this is a perfect opportunity to say, I am here, and make a monster statement to our pro drivers out on the track. And this is going to be a bit of a wild one. The Ferrari 296 will have the outside line heading into turn 1, but if he can keep it all together in turn 1, he will be able to make up that ground heading into turn 2, holding the inside. As you see the car slowing up at 70 kilometers an hour, Brandon Kruger went a little bit too quick. Too far ahead. Now he's trying to let the grid catch up. And unfortunately, this is cooling his tires down while he's sitting on the marbles. This is going to be a bit of a rough start for him as we get ready to go for round 1 of the RaceFace.Pro GT3 Championship. Lights on, lights on, lights on. And we're waiting for the green flag, which is... What now? We are racing. Brandon Kruger not getting that start, but take a look as de Villiers instantly takes the fight to the sharp end of the field. Johan Blichnote going across the nose of Christoph Peterson. So just making that little bit of a jump. Now has to try and climb his way through. De Villiers up into second place. Tian Ilov running in third, having that rear snapping at him constantly at this point. Going Blicknote, going unfortunately taking one of the Kenny's, the cones out of the way, well the bollards out of the way, with Christoph Peterson just trying to find a little bit of a go ahead. But incident behind Mordrake Clausen's aimed at the wall, and not going to be happy with that one. Side-by-side action for second place, though, as we do see Tian retaking the position. De Villiers dropping down into third, and Blicknote, who tried putting his nose in, unfortunately had to brake a little bit harder, and now Christoph Peterson having yet another look to try and get by. So drivers are making their way around the circuit and battling to try and keep ahead, but Brandon Kruger doing a phenomenal job, as we do see Karapuka's huge lunge on the inside, outbraked himself while trying to get past Michael Donaldson, and that has thrown him all the way down into 9th position, possibly 10th if Ryan Barrington-Smith didn't get that poor drive out of the corner. Unfortunately, not the best run for him, and you can see that Mustang still battling it out. Unfortunately, tunnel vision coming into play and throwing him down the field. So it's been a bit of an interesting start for some, and others, well, it's been the start of the century.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Stephen. I mean, Brandon Kruger had the start that he dreamt of and he wished he had last night, where he had a good run and unfortunately just messed it up going into turn one. Tonight he booked it perfectly. Yes, he probably had some cold tires from having to wait for the grid to bunch up and catch up to him, but he had a clean start, and I promise you, nobody will be able to catch him tonight if that's the pace that he keeps on going on there. As you see, De Villiers setting the fastest lap of the race on the, well, it's not, I can't say fastest lap, it's only the second lap, but with a blistering pace of 132.9 compared to the rest who are all still in 135s, 134s. This is still the second lap, tires are heating up, but we did see that De Villiers made a move onto the Tian Ilov there, got it there and then lost it, but we all know that the Nissan takes time to warm up, and when it warms up, it is a beast as long as you have enough fuel in it. So Daniel, I hope you put enough fuel in it, and I hope that you paid your pit crew enough to make sure there is enough. But it's been a good start, unfortunately, for Mondre Klaasen getting involved in that accident, which unfortunately took him to the back.
Oh man, 3 wide. Mahias Musa stuck on the outside as Tianas Buerta tried to get the drive, went a little bit sideways into Andre Sorodio, but Mahias Musa battling it out with Alan Patterson also trying to take a look at him, as well as he gets a bit of a snap from getting on the power a little bit too early. He is on a bit of a rough stead at this point as the huge train comes on by. Alan Patterson will be communicating with Darren Miller.
Accident for Mohamed Musa and Tinas Buerta going into turn one.
Yeah, that is not gonna be a fun one, and let's see if we can try and pull up a replay and see a top-down view of that incident for the 722 car and the 54. That little bit of contact cost them so much time as they went down. So this is a little bit of contact with Andre Sorodio. Tianas Buerta trying to get the drive, and you can see Musa giving it everything he's got. Going to try and brake a little bit later, very, very late, into the rear, and unfortunately that landed up with him into the dirt. Musa waiting it out and returning back to the track, but that has thrown them down the order and not done them any favors. Ryan Barrington-Smith having a good bit of run with Loic Randall, constantly hounding him, looks around the outside. You can see Darius gets it unsteady as he tried putting his nose on the inside, on the outside to get on by. Quick flash of the lights though to Loic Randall, saying, listen buddy, I'm coming for you. But for Loic, he's in a very, very difficult situation, pincered between two teammates at this point, and needs to figure out how can he get out of there with the BMW sucking up all that aero wash off the back of the Aston Martin of Ryan Barrington-Smith.
And we do know that team for Loic Randall will be talking to him and making sure plans, but he's it's in a sandwich of two different teams. He's between the likes of Ryan Barrington-Smith from LNR and